It's all very well to say we live in a multicultural country until you're a Christian, until you hold the traditional views of the Catholic Church.
We are back. It's Omcatsat, and welcome. Today, we have Jacob Rees-Mogg biting back against the cultural Marxist multicultural agenda. And it's pissing off Russell Brand, so much so that he's made a video on Moggmentum. What gets me in this video is for someone like Russell Brand, who has been quite vocal about the mainstream media's habit of running with certain narratives that suit their agenda, we find him here promoting a narrative that Jacob Rees-Mogg is some kind of pantomime supervillain. Basically, for the crime of holding a traditional religious stance on gay marriage and abortion, and for being a tad snotty with newsman Jon Snow. Russell tries to shore up this narrative by comparing Rees-Mogg to xenophobe, racist, sexist, Russian colluder, white supremacist enabler, and literal, modern-day Hitler, Donald J. Trump, claiming that they both have an individualistic malice and a joyful lack of compassion. This is accompanied with a hackneyed disbelief that there could even be a significant number of, quote, living, voting people that would be in agreement with Jacob Rees-Mogg. It seems that lessons haven't been learned from the populist movements of Brexit and Trump 2016. The left are still in denial about the new reality and have resorted back to their predictable default tactic of demonizing conservative opinion. In the US, it was a similar story. Rather than entertaining a period of self-reflection and introspection to see where they, the Democrats, had gone wrong, they immediately doubled down and blamed Russia for hacking the election. Still, 8 months into the Trump presidency, and Hillary Clinton is still pointing the finger at everyone but herself. But back to Russell. And this is what I don't like. It's a blatant misrepresentation of Rees-Mogg, and I'll give you the context.
On food banks predate the Conservative government, and crucially, the change that took place was that the Conservative government allowed Job Centre Plus to tell people that food banks existed, and the former Labour government would not tell them, and that was a policy decision to stop people knowing that there was help available. And I don't think the state can do everything. That it tries, and it provides a base of welfare that should allow people to make ends meet during the course of the week, but on some occasions that will not work. And to have charitable support given by people voluntarily to support their fellow citizens, I think is rather uplifting and shows what a good, compassionate country we are. And as I say, inevitably the state can't do everything. So I think that there is good within food banks, and the real reason for the rise in numbers is that people know that they're there, and Labour deliberately wouldn't tell them.
Bit of poverty in the middle of the week and a tiny bit of starvation at a weekend. That should be enough to get you through. Again, it seems like a kind of peculiar relish in saying the unsayable. What is being denied and not stated, and that undermines Jacob Rees-Mogg's argument in an empirical and obvious way, is that working people are using food banks and they're not being paid enough and not earning enough to feed themselves. And the reason that's happening is because of a continuing trend of disempowering ordinary people. And Jacob Rees-Mogg demonstrates the British version of a move to a more extreme version of what's already not working. Christianity is mostly about being nice, being kind, sharing. I don't think Jesus will go, I think it's good that people know there are food bags. I think it's good that people are aware of their leprosy. I'm not going to heal them. It'd be nice to get them to do a little dance. It's like that sort of patronising villain version of Christianity. So I suppose what this reveals to me is like this system keeps manufacturing really odd characters to sustain itself, and only systemic change can break this trend.
So there are a few things here. I hope you could see from the LBC interview that Jacob Rees-Mogg is no villain. Conservatives are generally for small government and individual responsibility, whereas socialism favors big government and a citizenry dependent on the state. Encouraging private voluntary support and a basic welfare system is not evil. We saw in the video that it was the Labour government that was withholding information on food banks from genuine needy recipients, which totally sucks, and is definitely heading in the direction of evil. Next up, we have brands stating that there are working people needing to use food banks, as they aren't earning enough wages, due to a continuing trend of disempowering ordinary people, and that Mog represents a more extreme version of what is already not working. Now I don't want to get too into this political lark, it's pretty dry subject matter, but breaking news people. 40 years of EU policy has flooded the UK labour force with an abundance of cheap labour, which, you've guessed it, drives down wages. Brexit can only strengthen our economy and increase jobs for British nationals. You can see Russell's video in its entirety at your leisure, and I'll leave a link in the description. Essentially, Russell bigs up the idea of the need for systemic change. However, even Stevie Wonder can see that the UK has just witnessed the biggest systemic change since the Second World War, namely Brexit, a referendum to ask the people for their sovereign decision on political union with the EU. Something which was imposed on the citizens of the UK by stealth, a mission creep which had morphed from an economic union. Mog and Trump are not the pantomime villains, that would be too easy. Labeling them as such is indicative of the reluctance of the left to come to terms with the new faces of a populist wave sweeping across the developed world, a nationalist and ethno-nationalist opposition to global, centralized power, an opposition to a political correctness gone mad, an opposition to a bastardized multicultural ideologue, and a pushback against the divide and conquer of identity politics. Finally, I wanted to address the abortion issue, having followed the trajectory of Russell, his rise to fame on MTV, and Big Brother's Big Mouth, plus the understanding that he embraces Eastern spiritual culture. I was a little taken back, to say the least, to see him hold such an irreligious stance on abortion. As a vegan, he understands the principle of non-violence to defenseless animals. So how about defenseless souls, who are about to take birth in the human species? It seems odd to not eat eggs, but to not have a problem with people aborting fetuses in the womb. What with his acceptance of the karmic principle, I would have thought that Russell would at least want to use his platform to give a voice to a much needed spiritual perspective, rather than echo an atheistic, nihilistic, postmodern agenda. That will do it for this week. If you have any suggestions, you can leave them in the comments section below. And, as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cat Sat.